Hey, we're back with another episode of Wait, Run That Back? So today's movie we are watching Unbroken, and I told y'all to watch it last week, so hopefully you did. In case you haven't, this is a spoiler alert. We're going to be going all into details about this movie. We're going to key and everything. So this movie actually came out in 2014, and I'm not sure if y'all knew this, but it's actually directed by Angelina Jolie. You know, I've seen her win awards and stuff, but no one really suggested for me to watch this movie ever. So the only reason why I watched it is because there's a certain category on Netflix where, I'm sorry y'all, I think my allergies are messing up today, so I've been sniffing and sneezing, so sorry. But anyways, yes, the only reason why I found this movie was because on Netflix there is a category that says real life, and I am a big person on movies based off of true stories. So that's how I found it, just randomly. I was like, what is this? And I clicked it, and it was an amazing movie. Yeah, people just be winning awards, and I don't be knowing what they winning an award for. Like, there's that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. What award is that? Is that the Oscar? It's not an Emmy, so it had to be an Oscar or Academy. I can't remember which award it is, but I know he won something for a movie, and I still never watched that movie. So there's just so many movies that, unless someone tells me to watch it, I don't even think to watch it. Now, this movie, since it is based off of a true story, I have some notes for you guys. Because the way that I actually filmed this, I actually filmed the founder first. And now I'm filming Unbroken with you guys. So with the founder, I didn't do as much research. Because we know McDonald's, right? But I did not do enough research on it. I just kind of just was like, had a little couple of questions about the woman, because at the end they talk about how she gave all the money away, and I was just really curious about that. Like, why did she do that? Was she mad at him or what? If y'all haven't seen it, go check it out. You can watch it on Netflix, or you can watch it on Amazon Prime. So, but with this movie, since one, I've already seen it before. I saw it like 2 weeks ago, but since now that I'm doing the whole Wait, Run That Back, I decided to rewatch it to tell you guys about it, and I had more questions, and I just went and did a whole bunch of research on it. I think that's actually kind of fun, since you know, I'm not sure if y'all are the type of people who after you watch a movie, then you immediately gotta go check out like certain facts about maybe the actors, like, oh, where's that actor or actress has been, like, I haven't seen her or him since this movie, or like I said, because it's based off a true story, how did they do this, or when did this happen, I want to see what the real person looks like, whatever. So I did a lot of research for this movie for you guys. So here we go. Let's get started with Wait, Run That Back, Unbroken. Spoiler alert, if you have not watched this movie, go check it out on Netflix. It is on there. I don't know how long it's going to be on there, but it should be on there. If you're not, find it somewhere. Okay, so let's get started. So the movie is based on World War II, and it's about a true Olympian. Like, this is a true story. It's about Louis, however you want to pronounce it, Zamperini. And he was, like I said, an Olympian. And shortly after he ran in the Olympics, he didn't win, but shortly after he ran in the Olympics, he went through World War II, and his story is absolutely insane. Everything that he had to endure and go through is insane, and that's what this movie is showing every little thing that he went through during World War II. So the movie starts off with us being in the sky, because he actually joined the Air Force, and he is I hope I'm saying this correctly, a bombardier, which I guess basically means he be dropping bombs on people, and that's what we see in that first scene, is them dropping bombs. Now, the movie doesn't go into this, but I wanted to bring this to the forefront, and like I said, throughout this video, I'm going to be dropping like real, true gems that they didn't say in the movie. So when we see them flying in the sky, this is actually April of 1943. And the main character is Louis Zamperini, and he's dropping bombs on a specific location of the Japanese. Now, what they don't tell us is, I guess that particular scene of him dropping those bombs was a big deal for World War II. Specifically, how big of a deal or what exactly it helped with, I'm unfamiliar with, but it was a big deal of him finding that or them, shall I say, not him, them finding that location and doing the damage that it did. But meanwhile, while they're dropping these bombs, they're also getting shot at, and their plane suffers a lot of damages. Like, what we don't know, once again, little truth gem, is like the plane was shot up like 600 times. Yeah, they didn't even realize how much it was shot up at first until they went back to base. It was shot up 600 times, but they managed to survive and also fly back. But unfortunately, someone dies while getting shot at. Actually, we saw like several people get shot at, but one person actually died. We really see Zamperini's balls of steel at this point, because he's walking back and forth on these skinny little planks, trying to close the shutters to their tires or whatever it was supposed to cover, and he's helping everybody. He's going to the front of the plane, he's talking to the pilots. I mean, he's doing a lot. But anyways, they did survive, and we are hit with a flashback. There's a lot of flashback in this movie, and the flashbacks really help build the character of who Zamperini is, because at this point we didn't even really know who he was, or we didn't realize he was the main focus until they did the flashback. And we see the upbringing. He's in church, which I think is a Catholic church, if I'm not mistaken. But I just know it was a church, and he's a young boy checking out the ladies. And the next scene is him running from cops. I guess he must have stole, because we see him get to his like hidden box that he has, where he puts like money in there, gum, he puts a lighter, I don't know, he just does a lot. And then he sits down. Mind you, the cop was chasing him, but he's so fast that he gets away. So he's sitting down and he's smoking cigarettes, and he's drinking from a milk bottle that he has painted white on the side, but is really full of liquor. Why is he smoking and drinking at such a young age, other than being a little rebel? I don't know. I don't know why he's doing that. When I did look at a small little documentary on him, he did say that his family came from Italy, and he also didn't speak English either. So, but in the movie, at this point, he's old enough where at this point he's already learned English. So next thing we know is bullies run up on him and they just start beating him up. Why? I don't know if it's because he's small. I don't know if it's because he's Italian, but they beat him up. But the officer that was chasing him breaks up the fight and takes him home. But he lets him know, like, if it wasn't for the respect we have for your family, we would have been sent you away, because we are sick of you. Not just us cops, but the whole town is sick of him. Like, so he obviously was terrible for someone to say that. I also didn't know why they had so much respect for the family, considering that they started off as immigrants. So the officer walks him home, and when he gets home, the mother and his older brother answer the door, and the brother is translating for his mother. So that's where you can see, like, not everybody in the family, which kids obviously pick up quicker than adults, but the mom did not speak English still. So the brother is translating, and once the officer explains everything, you do see Zamperini get punished. And I'm not gonna lie, I was happy to see this, because, and also considering this is well, let's see, if he was an adult in 1940, so this had to be like 1920s or so. I do get happy to see parents do the traditional punishment of like spanking and grounding and stuff like that. This soft parenting stuff is not for me. That's not how I grew up. But so I was happy to see, yeah, get your butt whooped. But yeah, you can definitely just tell he's just a menace to society. But that's not enough to stop him. The next, who knows how much longer it had been, but the next time we see him again, now he's under some bleachers drinking yet again. I mean, he has like a whole thing underneath there of milk. It's not milk, but it's the milk bottles that are painted white to seem like it's milk. But he's drinking underneath the bleachers and looking up girls' skirts to the point that someone catches him underneath the bleachers. And he literally does a dash. He bolts out of there. And he runs across the track and football field almost like he was Forrest Gump. Y'all remember that scene from Forrest Gump? And he's just beating all the other runners and stuff on the football field. He was running. And I believe that was his brother who actually saw. I mean, I think the entire track team saw him, but we didn't realize that that was his brother also running too. But his brother sees, like, dang, like, he's fast. So he starts training him so that way he can try out for the track team. And he's not thinking he can do it, but his brother is speaking motivation into him, like, you can do it, doesn't matter who's chasing you, like, put your energy towards something good, or else, you know, bad things are going to happen to you if you keep going down this path. So his brother, you know, listens to him, and he does eventually get to join the track team. And it's funny because his very first track meet, he's wearing Converses and a polo. But he beats everybody, and we keep seeing him grow up to be this amazing athlete for the high school, where they even call him the Torrance Tornado, because this is actually all located in Torrance, California, which is like 20-30 minutes from LAX. So they're in Los Angeles, and he's winning meet after meet after meet. Even with people cheating, people are cutting him with his cleats. And it's crazy. I'm sorry, the entire movie, but really on this scene too, or any scene that he is running. First of all, he is not the actual actor, he is not a Tom Cruise when it comes to running. And his teeth look like piranhas. Like, did y'all think that? Because, like, those teeth were sharp, man. I mean, it was kind of scary to look. Like, he like, so sorry to the actor. I know those are probably his real teeth, but they were bothering me. After high school, he gets invited to actually run for the Olympics, and we see him and his brother. His brother's not going, but his brother is helping the send-off, so that way he could go all the way to Berlin, which at this point, they don't tell us this, but the year of him going to Berlin is 1936. This is like the rise of World War II. You know, World War II didn't start until like 1940. This is like, it's building up to it. So to go over to Germany, to the capital of Nazi land, is already insane to begin with. But anyway, so he tells his brother Pete, can't remember his name. He tells his brother, you know, a moment of pain is a lifetime of glory, right? Now we're back from the flashback, and we're seeing the plane about to land. Mind you, the plane doesn't have any tires, or I wouldn't say it has no tires, but it's like a flat tire. So we're seeing them land, and they're able to survive the landing even with the damaged plane. And here's a picture right here of the holes and stuff from the plane. It was bad. The fact that they even survived that is crazy. On a small island too. Now that I've watched this movie twice, I watched the first time 2 weeks ago, and then I rewatched it last night so I could take all these notes for you guys. But I really got a chance to now pay attention to all the characters that's in the movie, and I like seeing that because, you know, I didn't really pay attention to Phil at first. So we see Phil, he's praying. The guy that is helping him train is the other pilot, and I didn't even know what they were training for until I did some research. And actually, this moment is a big moment because he was able to run a mile in sand at that in 4 minutes and 12 seconds. So it just looked like he was just running, or because he just loves to run, and they're like, yeah, cool. But yeah, it's because he ran a mile in sand in 4 minutes and 12 seconds, which is crazy fast. Imagine if he wasn't in sand. So yeah, we're in Hawaii, and they get sent on a new combat mission. And this combat mission is to find some people who are missing or whatever. And they're forced to use, they say in the movie it was the same plane, but it actually wasn't. I believe the first, I could be wrong about this. I think I'm wrong about this. I could be wrong. But anyways, there was 2 planes, right? There was Superman, and then there was the Green Hornet. I can't remember if the first plane was Superman and then they switched to the Green Hornet, or was it the Green Hornet and then they switched to Superman. But either way, it's not the same plane. However, though, this plane is damaged. It's known to be damaged. They don't go into that in the movie, but upon research, yes, this plane was known to not be the greatest plane. And they're traveling over the Pacific. Like, they're in Hawaii. And I don't know exactly where they're going, but they are I guess I don't know if they're going to Japan. I don't know if they're trying to go to America. Regardless of the fact is, they have to travel over a huge body of water with a plane that's known to be defective. So they have some new recruits, because remember, the other people that was in the last plane, one died and several of them were wounded. So I think they got sent back to America, if I'm not mistaken. So they're crossing over the ocean, and once again, this is a defective plane. 2 engines, both on the left hand side, goes out. Now they're crashing into the ocean. And in this right when we're about to see them crashing, they flash back again, and we're back in now at the Olympics in Berlin in 1936, and you see Nazi flags everywhere. Couldn't pay me enough, because I do know, since I World War II is probably one of my favorite wars to read up on and everything. The things that Hitler was doing at this time was already problematic before it even became a world war. So if I was Zamperini and someone invited me to go over there during that time, I still would have said no. No, God? Nah. Like, wait, run that back? You want me to go to Berlin? No, thank you. We also see he doesn't really meet him, but at the same Olympics, this is where Jesse Owens did his, and I mean, he won gold medals over there, right? And I'm not sure if y'all know the story of Jesse. Since he was black, he wasn't allowed to run in the Olympics, and they did a big movement so that way he could go. And actually the NAACP didn't even support that. I'm sorry, I'm getting off track, but the NAACP did not support Jesse going over there, because they felt like, you're a black man and they don't want you to run it, so therefore you shouldn't run in it, because F them people. But whatever. Yeah, so there's Nazi signs everywhere. And did y'all catch the moment where Zamperini does a head nod at, there was an Asian man? I wasn't sure if it was just like, this is a representation, like, hey, us, you know, Americans and the Japanese wasn't beefing like that, so, hey, what's up, boy? I don't know if it was that, or was that the bird? If you don't know who the bird is, we're going to talk about that a little bit later now. But I wasn't sure if that was the bird and he was also in the Olympics, or was that just like to show that we weren't at war or beefing with each other yet. I wasn't sure. I'm slowly adjusting my laptop, which has the notes on it, where I'm not just turned to the side. So we see him racing and he's falling back. He's tired. He's realizing these people are fast, super, super fast. But one thing about Zamperini is his bond with his brother. His brother is the one that has pushed him, the one that has believed in him, the one that has motivated him. So all he hears in the last lap around, he's thinking of his brother, and he just starts, he kicks into overdrive. We don't know where he has this extra energy stored in, but he pushes it out. And so he didn't win, but considering where he was, he did beat the only other American in that race. And also too, I don't know if he came in 7th or 8th. Some articles I read he came in 7th place, and other articles I read he came in 8th place. But nonetheless, that last lap is like a record-breaking lap, because the original time for one lap was 69.2 seconds, but he was able to do it in 52 seconds. It's so crazy because in the movie they kind of make it seem like he won. He didn't win. Sorry, so sorry, Zamperini, but he didn't win. He did that last lap. He did go crazy and did that in 52 seconds, which is insane. Here's a fun fact: at the end of that match, he actually meets Adolf Hitler. They shook hands, and he was like, Adolf Hitler said, "Oh, you're the man who went crazy fast in that last lap." So nuts. And who would have thought? I'm sure Zamperini couldn't believe, like, who would have thought that was the same man who was going to destroy so many people's lives. Fast forward, now we're here with the plane crash. The plane is crashing into the water, and he goes underwater, and something falls on his leg. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was a gun. I don't know, but something heavy falls on his leg. And I'm not gonna lie, this scene seemed this much unbelievable. The only reason why I say that is, how many people do you know can pass out underwater, wake up, and survive? That was a little crazy in my opinion. But yeah, he did faint, and he manages to escape. And what I didn't know until listening to the documentary, and Louis actually spoke for himself, he says that, it's actually difficult when he came out of the plane, because all the oil and water and blood that was all in the surrounding the plane as you're trying to come out from being submerged underwater. You don't think of these things until someone else explains it, but yeah, like that's crazy. So he's trying, not only are you trying not to swallow salt water, but you're also now trying not to swallow oil and blood and everything else that was in the water from the crash. He manages to escape, and the only people who survive is him, Phil, and Mac. Phil is severely injured in the head, and everyone else is dead. We didn't even see like anybody trying to float, so I don't know if just everybody just maybe hit their head and just was in the plane or whatever, but nobody was even on the surface. So Zamperini does find see a life raft, and he gets everyone on board. Like, he goes and swims towards it to grab it, and then he gets everybody on board. At this point, Mac is extremely negative Nancy. I mean, speaking facts, he is being honest and truthful and about what's about to happen to him, but he was being super negative. Like, oh, we're all about to die. Nobody's going to come and find us. Which, actually, listening to Zamperini's documentary, he actually says that he did think someone was going to come save them, because they've also themselves have gone out and rescued people. So that's why Mac being so negative like that, like he didn't really truly believe it. He's really thinking someone's going to find it, even though they're like, I think they said they were 800 miles away from, they don't say this in the movie, but they say this in a documentary. I do believe they were like 800 miles away from Hawaii. So that is a crazy amount of distance in the Pacific. But nonetheless, he was hopeful and really did believe that they could get rescued. And even then, the next day, there was a plane that flew by. We see that in the movie. But I'm telling you, based off of true story, there was a plane the following day that tried to find them. Unfortunately, though, Zamperini, the real Louis Zamperini, he says that when you're looking, over this big thing of water, to see a life raft in the water, it looks like just a white spot. It doesn't look like, oh, there's people there. But in the movie, they do show in the movie that they had, what do they call it? Flare guns. In the movie, they do have flare guns, but regardless of the fact is, no one saw them. So they get down to the nitty gritty, like, look, this is what we got. We got some chocolate, we got some bottles of water, but we can only have 3 sips of water, a little bit of chocolate a day. There's sharks bumping into their life raft, surrounding them. They do see that, like I said, I was telling you based off of the true story, but in the movie, we do see the plane, they shoot flares, they put dye in the water, but it wasn't enough for them to get spotted. And then the part that pisses, I'm sure, everybody off is Mac, in a panic, eats all the chocolate. Like, why would you do that? I understand we're about to die and you're already a negative Nancy, but, like, why would you do that? Mac, I just wanted to punch hands at that moment. And it's sad, too, because they can't hide from the sun. They're on life rafts. Like, there is no protection. And you see them having moments of each one of them just breaking down, just having a moment, because I can only imagine their thoughts, all of that stuff. Then what seemed like a gift from God is a albatross. I thought it was a seagull. So glad I did research. An albatross landed on the boat. And I don't know why, when this bird landed on there, it made them so sick. Why? Do y'all know why that albatross was so rancid? Because, I mean, they all threw up and they made that. So I really wanted to know what was so bad about that bird. Was it just that bird? Or is it, in general, you don't want to eat those birds? I just would really love to know. But, they had to do what they had to do. Unfortunately, since it made them sick, they just broke pieces off of it and fed it to fish so that way they could get fish. And they were getting some little fish too. And I'll be honest, even though, yes, we about to die, I would not have wanted to share with Mac. I would have done it regardless because I'm a nice person, but did not want to share with him. And I'm not sure. And y'all do realize, right, that when you're starving like that, like, you can't just eat an abundance amount of food. Your stomach does shrink if you haven't ate anything. And I don't know how long it had been at that point, but if it had been days, your stomach does shrink. So even in our mind, we're probably looking at that little fish like, oh, that's it? That's all y'all going to eat? Y'all not going to get, like, try to get 2, 3, 4 of them? No, because, yeah, it's too much. They speak about another relative story that ended the same way. So they came up with this pact, like, hey, you know, there was this other guy who had been lost at sea, and they all lost their minds. What we can't do, we don't want to lose our minds. So therefore, we're going to keep talking to one another. We're going to share stories with one another. So that way our minds are alert. Question. Did y'all ever wonder why they kept taking their clothes off? Because I kept wondering that. Right? Because now, mind you, you're on the ocean. It's cold, number one. Freezing cold at night. And number two, during the day. This is not even the Atlantic. This is the Pacific. Like, that's like the coldest body of water anyway. That at least us Americans know about. But nonetheless, it's cold as hell. They kept taking their clothes off. And also, I would think that they would want to keep the clothes on during the day because you don't, to prevent yourself from getting further sunburned. I don't know. That was just my thought. I'm not sure if y'all thought the same thing, but I was really thinking that. Like, why y'all keep taking y'all's clothes off? I could see taking, like, maybe your shirt off to cover your face so it's not exposed to the sun as much. But to take it off and just let your feet just burn and all this other stuff, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. My scariest thoughts did come true. Because I'm from Houston, you guys. So for me, all I kept thinking is hurricanes, tropical storms, tsunamis. That's all I kept thinking. Because, I mean, they're in the middle of the ocean. So, and in case you didn't go to science class, let me break it down for you. With hurricanes, they're developed because of hot air hitting the water. Mixing with the cold water, it starts to swirl. So I was really thinking, like, dang, are they going to hit any storms? Thank God there may not or may have been a hurricane in the water, right? So my scariest thought did happen. A storm hit. I don't know if that was a hurricane or not, but that looked insane, right? Because I mean, whoo, child, I was scared for them, and I was scared just thinking about it. I can only imagine. In this moment, it is a key moment. It's not really a key moment to you guys watching the movie, but it's a key moment to Louis Zamperini's life, that he dedicated his life to God if he survived. Amen. Because we all know he was bad as a kid. So we don't really know, even though he runs track and all, we don't know how well this man has been living his life to the Lord. I mean, you know, he could still be bad in his adult life. Being a track star don't mean nothing. So he does dedicate his life to God if he survives. Now, one good day happened, and I guess that was the only day it happened, was it finally rained. And with rain, because they can't drink the water that's the ocean because it's salt water. It will dehydrate them even more. So it finally rained and they were able to catch it. And then the craziest scene, I think, also too, that we don't think about when people are trying to survive the ocean, is this man trying to kill a shark. Not even tried. They succeeded in killing a shark, but talk about sushi, man. I mean, I've never had shark. Does shark taste good? Raw shark, not cooked shark, raw shark. Does that taste good? But they had to do what they did. And the fact that they even pulled a shark out of the water with their bare hands, because kudos to them, man. Woo, child. And the fact that they were even able to pick up like a small shark. This ain't like no big old great white shark, but a small, like almost baby-like shark. Balls of steel. Balls of steel. Later on, they see another plane, and they do the whole flare thing. Hey, I mean, at this point, they're so tired and dehydrated and starving and stuff, so they're like, hey. So they tried, shoot the flare gun. So they're hoping that it's one of them, one of their men, the United States. It's not. It's not. It's one of the Japanese or an enemy plane. We don't even really know specifically. Somebody was shooting them down, okay? Somebody was like, oh, survivors. You know what's crazy? They didn't even double check to see if it was one of their own people before they just came in and just started like, what? That's crazy. And so they're getting shot at, so they have to jump into the water, which they got lucky because they were almost ate by sharks. It was like sharks are in the water and our enemy is shooting at us in the sky. So yeah, so they jumped off the boat. The plane turns around, shoots at them again. Phil and Max stayed in there and just took their chances because I think they was just like, psh, we're too tired to try to swim. So if we're going to die, let us die this way, I guess. Shoot. So only Zamperini jumps back in the water. And by luck, he misses all the bullets. But there was a shark about ready to eat him. And the bullet hit the shark. And because of the blood, the other shark, even though Zamperini kicked it in the nose, in case you don't know, survival 101 when going against a shark, kick him in the nose, because apparently if you kick him in the nose or hit him in the gills, it will make him go away. So Zamperini kicks him, kind of probably by mistake, but nonetheless kicks it, and the other two sharks end up eating the shark that got shot. So all of this was by the grace of God, okay? It's a good thing that Zamperini said he's going to dedicate his life to the Lord, okay? And this is only because I did actual research and not because of what the movie said. But I do know that at this point when that attack happened, Mac dies like 2 or 3 days later. So he only survived 33 days. It was kind of sad, but at the same time it was like he wasn't really like a fighter. I hate to say that because this is based off a true story, but he just didn't have the mindset to like keep pushing. I think he tried as long as he could, but yeah, he gave up. And did y'all notice though, like Phil and all of them, they all had their feet just dangling off the side of the life raft? Now I know they don't have much room considering, it's 3 of them, and I didn't even mention this, but the poor planes shot, but I didn't even mention this. The poor plane shot their life raft up. So apparently, according to actual stuff that I read, it had like 66 holes in it, which is an insane amount of holes for a life raft. But honestly, we kind of don't see that second life raft, so I'm thinking like maybe some hit theirs and then maybe the majority hit the other one, because the other life raft was kind of almost already underwater, because they keep showing the scene of like where you can see both life rafts, and that one life raft was kind of somewhat underwater. And I didn't even think about this until watching the little documentary. I keep saying it's a documentary, but it really wasn't a documentary. It was more of like an interview, but I found it on YouTube. Nonetheless, I didn't even think about how most life rafts, they're going to get depleted because the sun and heat hitting, the rubber, air is going to escape. I didn't even think about that. So shout out to them for even surviving all of that. But yeah, Mac dies. And to go back to my point that I was actually trying to make, I would not be dangling my feet out of the water. We saw the scene where Zamperini almost got ate by a shark just from trying to fix the hole in the life raft. So if they just jumping out of the water like that, like they didn't sense no blood, they didn't even see him, you know what I'm saying? He's like on a boat, on a raft. I ain't dangling my feet out where they can jump and bite my foot off. That's just me. Imagine if a shark was swimming by and then boom, there's the fin right there, and you accidentally nudge the fin and it makes it want to. I mean, I don't know. I just be thinking of these things. Maybe y'all don't, but I was thinking that. After Mac dies, they're out on sea for like another 2 weeks. Now, good news is, and they didn't say this in the movie, but from the interviews that I saw, they actually had spotted land. And before they could reach land, the enemy, i.e. the Japanese, sees them and captured them. And it's funny that Zamperini still has a sense of humor where he's like, hey, I got good news, but I also have bad news too. Completely, they did spend a total of 47 days in the ocean, which is like 2.5 months. Barely little water, barely little food, and straight sun and cold, like, and water. I mean, yeah, that's just a lot. So now they're going to this concentration camp, and I have a lot of information about this concentration camp. Where they found them was actually in the Marshall Islands. So, and specifically this island that they found them on, or took them to, or whatever, they actually called this island Execution Island. So it is known to, you know, if you get found and sent there, you're dying. So they get there and they put them in separate outhouses. That's what basically their little cells look like, is an outhouse. And it's funny, once again, they have a sense of humor, so it feels like, man, land feels really funny. But unfortunately, in the next 5 seconds, you then hear them beating up on poor old Phil. Like, I don't think none of us have a true concept of what concentration camp really is. It definitely appears way worse than jail. I mean, obviously we do hear stories about people who go to jail and they get beat on by the police officers or the COs or whatever that are there. But like these concentration camps, I mean, they just be beating up on them for like no reason. They didn't do nothing. They just oh, I felt like fighting somebody. I don't know. And that's crazy, you know. But did y'all see Zamperini like eating something? I was really curious what that was, because I was like, is this cauliflower? Is that cotton? I don't know what it was. Eventually they do take Zamperini out of the outhouse, and that's to interrogate him, to get information on what he does, where did he bomb, how do they use like their equipment or whatever. But unfortunately, not even unfortunately, but maybe even to their own benefit, he's completely outdated in this stuff. He's been on in the ocean missing for like almost 3 months. But even the knowledge that he did have, he didn't reveal any of the information. And they realized at some point and found a news clipping that he was an Olympic athlete. And honestly, watching the interviews that I've seen, they said that's the only reason why they didn't execute them, is because Zamperini was an Olympic athlete. So had he just been a regular civilian, they would have died at this execution island. He does lie to them about how to use certain stuff. They ask him to draw it. He draws the wrong thing. And when they were switching him out to interrogate Phil now, he even told him to lie, or what specifically he lied about, and what to draw. You know, I didn't realize until I watched this movie the second time that Zamperini was asking the Japanese interrogators about the Marines. Mind you, Zamperini is in the Air Force. So I wasn't sure until the second time I watched it that maybe he was asking because he wanted to know if his brother was safe, alive, whatever. Because we didn't learn this until later on, that his brother was a Marine. Zamperini, Phil, they're losing it. I mean, they spent 47 days in the ocean, drifting at sea. And then now when they get to this camp, they don't tell us in the movie, but from what I researched, they were at this location for 42 days as well. So both like 2.5 months each of just pure torture, you know, on the Marshall Islands. So I guess this would have been maybe the last day that they were there. The guys get taken out of their little outhouses and was told to be stripped naked. And they're thinking that they're about to die. I was kind of a little upset at Zamperini, though. I understood that was his, like, in his mind, this is his last moment of a fight and being resistant. But, like, I don't want you to keep enduring pain. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I know you don't want to do this, but, like, dang, can you just kneel? Just kneel. Just do what they say. Even if they do decide to kill, just take it like a man. I just didn't like that he resisted them, you know? They didn't get executed, but they were actually given a bath. A very harsh, freezing cold one, but a bath nonetheless. Also, another fun fact, they were also testing on the guys. They don't bring this up in the movie, but Zamperini in his interviews said that they were getting injected things into their body, and that's because they were using them almost like a test dummy on stuff, so their skin was like itchy and having an allergic reaction. So the reason why they were given a bath is because they're about to be shipped away. They're actually being shipped now to Japan, and they were blindfolded, and unfortunately they got separated. And it looks like they finally got food, because they actually looked a little plumper to me. I was just looking how gaunt that they looked when they were getting that bath compared to when they're getting when they're arriving to Japan. They actually look like they had got some sort of food. They arrive at the concentration camp, and this is where we meet Watanabe, that's it, Watanabe, which they call him the Bird. And it's crazy because he immediately, now this part was a little bit Zamperini's fault, because he was looking at him in the eye. If you see everybody else's head is down, I get it, you just arrived, but if you see everybody's head is down, eyes is down, I don't know why he would be trying to sneakily look at him, but he does. And he comes and he beats Zamperini for looking him in the eye. Well, first he's enticing him, like, look me in my eye, look me in my eye, look at me, and then just start beating him. But for me, it's interesting how the Bird's fixation at this point is on Zamperini. We don't really see him beating anybody else like the way he's beating on Zamperini. I mean, even in this scene, he breaks his nose. They're sent off to the barracks, and in the barracks, of course, there's men who've already been captured. Who knows how long they've been there prior to Zamperini and his crew coming in, but he meets Commander Fitzgerald, and he gives him the lay out the land. He even, he explains about, we call him the Bird because he listens, and if he finds out we're talking about him, he'll kill us. They explain the Bird is erratic. And then we also see him writing something, but at the time we don't know what exactly he's writing. I was curious, though. I was curious. In that next scene, it was like, I don't know what they were doing, but it's very fascinating. Like, in a concentration camp or a POW, prisoner of war camp, whatever you want to call it, that they're making these people exercise. I just thought that was a little fascinating. Like, are we doing Tai Chi now? I mean, like, I was fascinated by that. So the Bird starts calling out, I guess, anybody that he knows that has been successful, that they're holding them here at this concentration camp. And so he calls out an opera singer, a chef from Australia, and he calls out Zamperini, the Olympic athlete. And he mortifies Zamperini by racing, knowing he will lose. He's suffering malnutrition. He's hasn't probably ran since we saw him train for that mile, or practicing running a mile or whatever for the fastest time. You know, he hasn't been doing none of that. He's been on, I mean, he's just been tortured this whole time, but yet the bird has him racing the other guards in this camp, and you know, to really mess with his mind, essentially. And Commander Fitzgerald's over there whispering under his breath, like, don't get up, don't get up. I didn't really quite understand that, other than, like, I guess if you get up and you show perseverance, then, you know, the bird's going to beat you or whatever. But it's like, if you don't get up, he's going to beat you anyway for laying down. So it's like, there's no win to that situation in my mind. So I was kind of shocked that he was muttering that under his breath. But the bird comes over to him, still beats him, as I just said, and it says he's nothing. You're nothing. We finally figure out what they're drawing, and we figure out that they're actually tracing maps and stuff to figure out when the U.S. is coming. Where have they already invaded? Where have they gone, or whatever? And at this point, they say that they invaded Marshall Islands, which I do believe that's why they moved Zamperini and Phil from Marshall Islands to Japan, because they knew the U.S. was coming. So that's why they transferred them over. It's because they eventually got invaded by the United States. And we see their operation of listening and keeping in tune of what's going on with the war and everything. Some things the prisoners tell them, and then a lot of it they don't. Probably to not give them hope or whatever, right? But one thing I hated, but one thing I just couldn't get with is, why are y'all glaring at the guards? Like, if I'm trying to be sneaky, I also know how crazy and erratic these people are. The last thing that I'm going to do is be staring and glaring at you like they were bold to do that. I wouldn't be looking at them. My head would be down or whatever. And to me, that would also fit the description of someone who's like they kept picking, at the end of the day, they were picking on Zamperini because of how strong he was mentally, and how, you know, yeah, he put up a little fight, right? So to me, I'm going to keep my head down and seem weak. I'm seem docile, so that way y'all ain't fucking with me. So sorry for cussing, but you know, I don't want you to think that I am strong, so that way y'all can leave me alone. Like, think I'm just one of everybody else. I don't know if it would work for Zamperini, because it wasn't until I was reading this interview between his son and this reporter that actually, because of who he was and the fact that he was successful in life, the bird picked on people who were successful in their actual civilian life. So it wouldn't probably have helped Zamperini any, but it wasn't even just him that was glaring at the guards. But to each his own. I mean, and this next scene really showed how erratic the bird was. I mean, he would come and beat up on him in the middle of the night. Like, this man would be in there asleep, minding his own business, not bothering nobody. And he would come in there, the bird would come in there and literally beat him, and then say, "Why do you make me hit you?" Fast forward, they offer him a job, and it's not at the concentration camp. It's at a radio station. Give him the task of going on the radio and saying he's alive, because at this point it's been 2 years, you know. So, and considering that they never found him after the plane wreck, he was, you know, killed in action. So that no one has seen, no one has heard from him, no one even knows he's alive. So they ask him to, not even ask him, they tell him to get on this radio and speak to his family and friends, and let's everyone know in America that he is alive. This is where we see that his brother is a Marine. We actually see everybody hear this message. Like, I was a little concerned, like, okay, is his family listening to whatever said radio station that the Japanese are playing? But apparently they do. So the family heard it, his brother heard it. After he does an amazing job on the radio, they give him food, but while he's eating, they come to him and like, hey, you know, if you want to continue this lifestyle, which you can, here's a script, read exactly what's on this script, and we'll feed you. There's other men here from America that we're also doing this for, because they say what we want. We're offering the same to you. And Zamperini's like, no, I can't, because we didn't really see what's on the script. We just know that we do know that they wanted him to lie about, oh, he's safe and they're treating him well, which, as we know, not the truth. I guess the script also said things about America in a negative light. Either way, Zamperini's like, I ain't doing it. I ain't gonna do it. I don't know how I felt about that, because I mean, you are in the military, so you do choose to have loyalty to America, right? But to go back into that environment again, I don't know if he knew when he refused that's immediately that was going to happen. But to go back into that environment of a concentration camp and having to be starved and beat on and all this other stuff, kudos to you, but I don't know if I could have did it. I mean, when I say I don't know if I could have done it, what I'm referring to is there consequences if he would have did it? Like for the other men who did do it, were there consequences for citing or doing what the Japanese say? I mean, at this point, considering what they did to Pearl Harbor and everything else, we know that these people, I don't want to say they're crazy per se, but low-key, they're a little crazy. So if we know this as Americans, would we have fought them if they did it? Is there a punishment for that? Do they get kicked out the service for that? Like, oh, you was working with the enemy? I don't know. But if I knew for a fact that I'm not going to get punished and the only people who are going to judge me are people who don't know what the hell I went through, I may would have said some things. I don't know. I know I wouldn't want to go back to being with the bird. I know that much. Not the way he was just being on me in the night. Zamperini, being who Zamperini was, they sent him back to the camp. And when they sent him back to the camp, they punished him real bad for making that decision. Even Watanabe was like, you know, you're like me. Dumb decision, but you're like me. Which further shows how strong Zamperini is mentally. And which makes them get picked on even more, right? So the punishment was that everyone in that camp had to punch him in the face. And did y'all see that line? That was definitely like 200 people. Just bow, bow. And they're not allowed to hit him light. Like, they got to hit him with full force in the face. And if they didn't do that to him, then the bird was going to beat on the guy who they caught making those maps and stuff, who they've been holding as prisoners. So, yeah. He took it like a champ, though. It was just sad because, you know, at some point, that many blows to the face, like, of course, he couldn't stand up. He couldn't hold his own. These men held him up, held his face up by his head, like, boom, and just kept, I mean, whew, this movie was extremely brutal, okay? And the fact that it's a true story, absolutely brutal. And it makes me sad because I think about, especially that story about the woman who's locked up in Dubai right now because she was screaming at her Uber driver. I just be thinking the absolute worst. Or Brittany, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, Griner, whatever. And she was over in was it Russia? Because they thought she was trying to serve or brought drugs into the country. I just, if this is not a good example of what could, shoulda, coulda, woulda in these other countries, like if you are going to go internationally, like study those laws Interestingly, in the next scene, we see that they're watching the Americans act out a play. So that's kind of, it's like one little, that's kind of cool that they allow them to do that, because, I mean, you just think the whole time is just nothing but torture, but at least they'll do that. It's like, oh, wow, okay. But Zamperini is sitting with the bird, and, well, actually, Zamperini was sitting by himself. The bird walks up to him and informs him like that he's gotten promoted and he is leaving the camp. And I think for everybody it was the sense of relief, but because of Zamperini's face, it was like, okay, this must not be a good thing, or there's something mischievous about this. But all I was thinking is like, dang, at least you get a break. So we do actually see the bird leaving. We learn while they're bombing nearby and they're like putting out the fires and any like damages that the bombing is doing, that there's actually a order to kill. So basically, if the United States do invade and reach them, before they actually reach them, the prisoners are supposed to kill all the Americans. The next day, though, they move the Americans by making them walk, making them take a train. They move them to the mountains where they're now at this coal concentration camp. And we're standing there and they're waiting to, I guess, announce who the leader is. And we all felt it, of course, because that's how the movie wants us to. But I can only imagine actually going there and you're standing like Zamperini and you just have some weird gut feeling, because I mean he's literally like about to pass out, about to faint or whatever, because he knows and feels this man's energy. He knows that this man is here, and sure enough, he is the leader here. And as soon as he comes down and says who he is, he goes and immediately beats on Zamperini. And it's like, dang, this man cannot get a break. A fun fact, they actually stay here for an entire year. So 2 years. By the time Zamperini crashed into the ocean and was drifting to sea, up until they moved him to the coal concentration camp, it was already 2 years. Then they stay here for an additional year. I mean, that's a long time. Because I told you in the very beginning that it was April of 1943 when they were flying around and all that stuff. So yeah, now it's like 1945. Zamperini didn't even go home until 1946. It's crazy how the camp is set up. I've always been scared of like seeing like staircases that are on the side of buildings and stuff like that when it has like little to no railing, because we see the guy is so exhausted, just a random American, he's so exhausted that he falls off the side of the building. That's always been a nightmare of mine. Like, it just looks scary. Even when we see like the fire escapes, nope. And with all that soot, now I'm gonna let y'all know, I wear glasses, but I wear contacts a lot more. All that soot from the coal, my eyes would have been affected, because one, they're not going to give us contacts solution or probably proper glasses, so therefore I would be blind. That's number one. Number two, all this dirt, I have sensitive eyes, probably because of how much I wear my contacts. All that dirt in their face and their eyes, couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. I would be crying, my eyes would be burning, and you can't even like, clean your eye off or hold your eye with anything because you ain't got no napkins. Your clothes is just as dirty as your face. Like, yeah, all bad. Then they announced that President Roosevelt is dead. I try to imagine myself in that scenario, because basically, yes, if we get a notification that the president died, then where's the hope? You have no hope after that. The reason why you don't have no hope is because you don't know if the next leader cares enough about y'all to come in and be able to rescue it. Or it could have prolonged the war. It could have made the war worse. So when they hear that President Roosevelt died, that's why you see people just breaking down, because it's like, dang, we're hoping that this war will end, and now at this point we don't know who's the next person in command to make sure what's going to happen next, you know? These men are exhausted. They're frail. They're starving. And to make matters worse, now you got these guards of the prisoners just not only beating them, but it's just like, I guess we always see the bird doing crazy things. We wasn't really accustomed to seeing like the guards doing the same stuff to them. So you just see this guard just push Zamperini just for the heck of it, and he either breaks or he sprained his ankle. And because they pushed him and hurt his ankle, that's what led to the next series of events, which is Zamperini, you know, he stops for a break because his ankle hurts. You know, he's tired. They're carrying heavy rocks on their back to and fro, bending over and all this other stuff. So he stops for a break. They catch him. So they drag him over to where the bird is. The bird says, pick up this huge 6-foot plank and hold it over your head. And if you don't, or whenever he drops it, shoot him. And he's doing this all with a broken ankle. I mean, I understand they're trying to push to the war is over, but the perseverance that Zamperini has is low key slightly godly. It's literally like some Jesus Christ shit, because I personally rather get shot than to starve to death, beat to death. I mean, if you could just cut the lights out quickly at this point. And now I gotta suffer holding this 6-foot plank over my head while you just standing there watching. Yeah, just go ahead and take me on out. I'm at this point, nobody's going to be there to be able to really tell my story to my family and friends, but I don't know if I'm going to keep pushing like that. I really don't. I say the same thing about zombie apocalypse. Do I know how to survive a zombie apocalypse? I think so. As much Walking Dead as I watched, I should be able to survive. But do I want to survive in that world? Constantly looking over my shoulder? I don't want to do it. This man, concentration after concentration camp, bad news after bad news, beatings after beatings, starving. I mean, yeah, I would have just gave up at that point. Sorry. But although they don't tell you in the movie, this man held up that plank for 37 minutes. And this is, of course, this is what they show in the trailer. This is that big moment where he takes all the energy and perseverance that he had in his soul and just looked the bird in the eye and just was like, "Rah!" Like, kudos to this man. I mean, straight kudos. I mean, it was so bad that the whole camp stopped to watch when they're supposed to be working. And the bird is so pissed because he can't break this man. He could, from the day one that he came into the camp, he knew Zamperini was strong. And he did everything in his power, mentally, physically, emotionally, to tear him down. I told you, from them making him race against other people and knowing that he's going to lose, all these things, like, he could not break this man. So for for Zamperini to look him in the face and doing a damn near impossible task, knowing the conditions that they're in, it pissed the bird off, and he beat him until he passed out and slept there overnight. One day, once again, don't know how much longer it is after this, but one day they get an announcement that the war has come to a cessation. I think that's how you pronounce it. But basically, they have came to a conclusion that they're ending everything, right? But they don't know for sure the war is over. So, as a reward, or as a, okay, this is what we did, we're allowing y'all to take a bath. Nobody thinks they're actually going to take a bath. They're actually just thinking like, y'all just bringing us into an area to kill us without leaving any trace of us behind, right? The best place would be in the river, where they could just, or our bodies would just wash out into wherever it's going, right? Don't have to worry about blood, cleaning up, all that stuff. And so they're walking, and you can tell everyone has that on their mind, because they look like they're walking to their death. But as they get to the water, they see a plane. Once again, in my mind, I'm thinking Zamperini's probably not even excited to see the plane, because the last time he saw a plane fly over his head like that, they were shooting at him. So I think he probably thought, oh snap, they about to shoot at us again, this is how they gonna kill us. So that's why he didn't look enthused to see everybody. Everyone else was like, yeah, what is this? Nah, dog. He's like, oh, here it comes. But sure enough, it's the Americans, and they're shouting with they're shouting and they're rejoicing that finally the war is over. People are here to help us. People are here to save us. It was actually kind of a disgusting thing to look at, because all of them were disgustingly filthy. I can only imagine how they smelled. And you know, people got must, just their own must, with wearing deodorant. So who knows when these people last took a bath. Oh God, no. So the Americans are dropping down resources, food, supplies, updated news, and all that. Zamperini takes this time after he's partaken everything. He goes and tries to figure out about the bird, where did he go? Because at this point, y'all just don't know this, but he's angry, right? Like, I'll get back to this, but nonetheless, he's angry. So he definitely wants to kill the bird, but he does go to, I don't know if he was going to go and do it at that moment, but nonetheless, he did go into his room, and that's where we figure out that the bird has escaped. But he leaves his stuff behind, and I feel like that must have been a way to torment Zamperini, because he leaves the bamboo stick, but what is weird is he left his pictures of him and his dad, or whomever that man was in the picture, but he leaves all that behind. If I'm escaping, I think I'm taking my picture frames with me, but child, to each his own. Maybe he forgot it, I don't know. As the movie is ending, we see Zamperini finally get back to America. He kisses the ground. Shit, I would too. I would definitely. I ain't leaving American soil. I don't want to go nowhere else. Like, I would be kissing it too. Child, after what I went through, yeah, I ain't going nowhere. And his family is there, and so they greet him, and especially Pete. He comes and gives him a big old hug. And that was pretty much the end. They give us some facts. That not even a year later, he meets a wife. Oh, I'm sorry, meets his wife, and they had a daughter, they had a son. We learned Phil did survive, thank God, because I thought he was going to be the next one to give up, but I'm so happy to hear that he survived, and he came home and married his sweetheart, and they remained friends. The bird was in hiding, and he was given amnesty by the U.S. at some point as a reconciliation with Japan. And they explain how they had severe PTSD afterwards. Like, duh. Hell yeah. I mean, we have to remember the time period. Back then, they didn't understand or maybe had a certain terminology to describe PTSD. So this would have been, you know, they didn't understand the concept of it at this point. I mean, PTSD and I can't even postpartum, all that stuff. Like, this is unknown. Like, we're in a generation now where we're self-aware and we care about mental health, but back then they didn't know that. So, you know, whatever traumatization that Zamperini went through to come home, he probably didn't have the proper help and all that. But he did fulfill his promise to the Lord. Amen. He gave his life to Christ, and this is the promise that he made on the boat. Like, if you get me through this, I promise to serve you. But I think because he's Italian, they may have been Catholic, which is why I said I don't know if that church in the beginning was Catholic or not. But he did switch over to Christianity at this point, and he forgave everybody, and even tried to make peace with the bird. And what they don't tell you in the movie is he actually went to Japan, and those same people who was his guards and all that stuff, they were arrested and was at a prison. He went to that prison and spoke, trying to convert people into giving their life to the Lord. And he saw some of those people there, and he forgave them all. Now, the bird did refuse, but I got some information for y'all that they don't tell you in the movie. Lastly, they show that he did run again in the Olympics. Unfortunately, it was years later. They don't tell you this, but the reason why he couldn't was due to everything that he had suffered, mainly his the food and diet or whatever. The fact that he wasn't eating, it didn't allow him to go back into he wasn't allowed to run anymore. And another fun fact is that the Olympics that he went to, it was located in Japan, but it was also not far from that coal concentration camp. It was like not far. It was like a hop, skip, leap next to it. But he did live from 1917 to 2014. R.I.P. Because you deserve a good sleep after that. And he was 97 years old when he passed. Now, here are some fun facts that I read afterwards. I've been giving y'all little fun facts throughout this, but some fun facts is I was really curious, right? Because we know that America dropped a bomb on Japan. The huge atomic bomb that looked like a mushroom. Yeah, we know that happened, how everyone got leukemia from it and stuff. So I was kind of curious how he did not get affected by it. I don't know how big that bomb is, to what span of Japan that it affected. Because in my head, because of how big that thing was and how far away they say you could see it, I was kind of assuming Japan ain't that damn big. Like, I was thinking like maybe all of Japan was for the most part affected. But I read this article, and it was more of an interview between Louis Zamperini's son Luke and another, I don't know who the interviewer was per se or whatever, but at this point Louis had died, so Luke was speaking up for him and giving certain perspectives to explain it a little bit more thoroughly. And so to answer my question about the atomic bomb, I'm going to read you what he said. It says, their lives were spared because of the atomic bomb. Word was sent out to execute kill to order. Had the bomb not happened, millions of POWs would have died. It was several days after the cessation. I hope I'm saying that wrong. I could be. So guards just walked away. Not only did it save the American GI prisoners of war, but it also saved untold millions of Japanese who would have fought to the last man to stop the American invasion. And that was coming straight from Luke's, which is the son of Louis Zamperini's mouth. Now, in reference to what happened on why the bird refused to meet Zamperini. So this is, once again, this whole thing that I'm about to tell you came straight from this article, and I'm going to put that link down in the description below. But it says, well, what happened is the bird hid out in the mountains of Nagano, I could be saying all this wrong, but okay, Japan for 7 years until a general amnesty was declared in the attempt for the American government to reconcile with the Japanese, which was necessary for them to be a united front against the spread of communism in Asia. We didn't know that until 1998 when CBS Sports did a documentary on his father's life, and they gone back to Japan to film scenes in their actual locations. The producer, by mistake, found out that the bird was still alive and he was a wealthy insurance salesman. They got Bob Simon, who was the narrator of this documentary, and their cameras. They went and they found the bird and they interviewed him. They asked him if he remembered Louis Zamperini. He goes, "Oh, Zamperini? Yeah, #1 prisoner. Yeah, I knew him well." They responded, "Well, then if he was such a good prisoner, why did you beat the tar out of him every day?" He says, "Oh, he told you that?" And they say, "Yes." They began to confront him with all the atrocities that he committed in the prison camp system, and he was admitting to it. He also said that he wanted to meet with my dad again because that's what they wanted to do, was bring him back to Japan and meet with him. But what happened was Watanabe's son and grandson had seen the cameras and came out and were listening to their father talk, and they knew nothing of his past. They were horrified at what he was admitting to have done on camera. They stopped the interview and they refused to let their father meet with this American Zamperini because he'd be expected to grovel and ask for forgiveness. Of course, that was not what my father had in mind. He wanted to meet him, put his arm around him, tell him that he didn't hold anything against him anymore, and he wanted to tell him about his newfound life in Jesus Christ, but that meeting never happened. Once again, those are exact words from the same article from Luke Zamperini. And one last thing that I did not know until doing all this research is I didn't know that there was a sequel. Now, this movie was directed by Angelina Jolie, right? But the sequel was not. And Angelina Jolie was a big part of Zamperini's life and story until he passed. He even got to see a rough cut of the movie before he died. But I didn't know that there was a sequel. None of the cast is the same, but I was reading comments underneath the trailer, and everyone says this movie was phenomenal. Like, phenomenal. Like, they said this movie actually may have been better than the first. So I don't know if they were just, just talking or whatever, or it really is. I guess we will be the judge of that, because one day, not right now, because I need a little bit of a break from all this sadness. And because our next movie that we are going to be watching is The Founder, which is about the McDonald's franchise. But until I'm ready again, because this movie took me out, child. Especially, I watched it twice for you guys. I watched it once just because, and then two because I took notes and everything for you guys. It took me out. It was a lot. And but one day we will watch the second movie. It is called Unbroken, Path to Redemption. Alright, we made it. We're here at the end. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Wait, Run That Back with me. This was an amazing movie. I am sorry that I gave you 2 sad back-to-back movies. However, the next movie will be The Founder, like I already said. It's about the McDonald's franchise. I can't really say that's a happy movie per se, but it's not as deep and dark as the past 2 movies have been. So if you haven't watched The Founder, it's on Netflix right now. I don't know if it's on Netflix by the time you're watching this video, but in case it's not, you can always go on Amazon Prime and you can rent it for $4. I think that's it. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And for this movie, oh my gosh, for this movie we are going to be using, let's see, what can we do, what can we use? Let me see. Hold on one second. So you can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, under the name LorenEleece. And for this movie, if you watch this video, I want you to put a life preserver. I want you to put that underneath my pictures, under my comments, whatever, to let me know that you watched this video and you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Oh, wait, run that back. Bye.